Alright guys, so in this video I wanted to go over some of the major mega projects that never happened in New York City. These are just projects that were theorized, there's some drawings, there's some renderings, but they never were built. This includes buildings, this includes airports, stadiums, you name it. We're just going to go through some. And of course, we have to start with the potential rebuilt Twin Towers, the rebuilt World Trade Center district area. This is a topic I could talk about for multiple hours. I've done videos on this, but I guess the first thing I'll say when it comes to trying to rebuild the World Trade Center complex, you can just see some of the initial renderings, initial theories. There was actually no Freedom Tower or One World Trade Center theorized originally in 2002, 2003. The main thing was, they wanted to possibly rebuild the Twin Towers straight up, or do some type of memorial where all of the buildings would have been smaller. You can also see different memorials that never happened. Again, guys, there are just so many different renderings of things that never happened within this complex because it was such a tragic event, and obviously it had to be rebuilt. There was a hole in the middle of Manhattan. This is a crazy design. This is like the hashtag building. Dude, it just looks so ugly, but the rendering is so HD, it kind of makes me like it. Yeah, the hashtag building right there. The alien. Oh, not the alien. That's what I call those buildings. It would just look so bad in the skyline if they built something like that. It's like aqua green, and just the way the building looks, the shape of it is so bad. You can see the evolution of it right there and how it evolved, the diamond. So that's another situation. They build One World Trade Center, but you still need two World Trade Center, so there's been multiple different designs for the two World Trade Center. You've got the stair step, you've got the diamond, you've got the grassy kind of generic skyscraper that they're trying to go with right now. It is still not final. We still don't know if Two World Trade Center will ever get rebuilt. They've rebuilt a lot of the other stuff. A lot of the other buildings like Three World, they don't even look anything like, the original building, which was a Marriott hotel. They ended up never rebuilding it, but those are just all the different crazy renderings. I personally like the diamond design. I think it would have been interesting if they would have just went with two of those and rebuilt the Twin Towers with that design. Another thing that I talked about in a previous video that's super impressive is the glass Twin Towers. The idea is to rebuild the Twin Towers, but with a modern glass exterior. To me, it just looks so beautiful. Imagine that lit up at night with the tridents at the bottom. Oh, but that was really never an official design. That was more of a fan fiction type. What if they did this? I just kind of wanted to throw that in because I thought it was pretty crazy. But obviously, the World Trade Center complex had so many different renderings, different plans that never ended up happening. But we are going to be moving on to the next mega project that never happened. It is Westside Stadium, which would have been home to the New York Jets. Now, the Jets ended up moving into MetLife Stadium with the Giants sharing that stadium, both of the New York teams playing there in East Rutherford. But I'll be honest, I'm looking at this design, this slick steel. It looks very impressive right next to the water. This is like the Hudson Yards area. Really, really cool. You do have the retractable roof element to it. You've got kind of the glass paneling on the outside as well. This ended up not happening. You do also have the idea of possibly luring the Olympic Games to New York in 2012 with this stadium, and then the Jets would have taken it over completely and been the main tenant there. Also, this would have been pretty crazy because you would have had a domed stadium, NFL stadium in New York with a high capacity of around 70K, which would have allowed New York City to have major big-time concerts in January, in February, year round. It ended up not happening, and the rest is history. And there's kind of the dream versus the reality. It does look a little bit similar. Yeah, the design of it actually kind of does look similar on the exterior, but MetLife Stadium is routinely known as one of the worst stadiums in the NFL, considering it was built in 2010, and it's just, there's nothing special about it. It's a very bland interior design, and the stadium wraps all the way around with the upper deck, so there's really no opening, there's no view of the city or anything like that, and it's in a very strange, kind of disregarded place due to New York City and the issues in terms of finding a big enough area to actually build a massive stadium with parking around it. And then these are just some old drawings of potential architecture in the 1800s and the 1900s. I just thought this was so interesting. It's like they have a subway system above the street. And look at those arches. I just love architecture like that, man. Just old-time architecture, the way this drawing is done, you know, the shades of gray. There's just something cool about it, and it just looks so elegant with the pillars and things like that. This is another one. This just looks so nice. It looks like a Big Ben clock tower in the back, but you can see the design of this city. This would have been New York City way, way a long time ago in the early 1900s. This is another one. This kind of reminds me of the Palace of the Soviets, the big time, palace that never got built in Russia. Interesting design. Imagine if that was built in New York City. And then this is like a Gotham bridge. It's literally a massive bridge. Look at how large that is. Like the supports and the tower. They have a Lego set called the Tower Bridge. It kind of reminds me of this, but you can see kind of the boats at the bottom and how crazy the scale is. And then this is another thing that's just crazy. Take a look at this airport. This was going to be a almost 1,000 acre Manhattan airport that would have cost $3 billion in the 1940s. So that's not adjusted for inflation. $3 billion in the 1940s. It would have been 200 feet above the street level along the Hudson River, and it just looks so ridiculous. It looks like a massive tabletop is built into the side of Manhattan. That's what it looks like, and you can see under it, like there's little ways where boats can go. There's little areas under it, but that is just a massive, it's almost scaled wrong. The reason is because you have to have a massive runway, but they're literally building a huge runway on top of water, or at least partially on top of water, basically depicting a giant built-in tabletop. Very interesting design there with some clear flaws, and obviously it never ended up happening considering it was proposed in the 1940s. And then the final one I'm going to be talking about, it is the Hotel Attraction NYC, which was a proposal in 1908. It would have been the tallest tower in New York at the time. Unfortunately, nothing came of the proposal. This is the same architect that ended up making the Sagrada Familia. This would have been before the design and construction of that, and because this was something that was theorized in the early 1900s, it's very hard to get complete, accurate drawings and depictions of what it really would have looked like, but it is a massive tower, some type of hotel building, maybe mixed-use office, just due to how big it is, that would have really commanded a lot of the skyline, especially in the early 1900s of New York City. But guys, those are just some different mega projects within New York City, within Manhattan, that were never built, including the World Trade Center complex. That's probably the one that's most famous because it was something that immediately had to be repaired and rebuilt in some way. You had a bunch of different proposals. I mean, even if you just talk about the memorial, there were thousands and thousands of different proposals submitted on how to do the memorial next to the towers. Should you build the towers? They end up building the Freedom Tower, but there is no two World Trade Center. And then there's just kind of some other interesting things, including a stadium. There's also the Brooklyn Dome. I'm not going to include that in this video, but that's another interesting design to keep the Dodgers in Brooklyn. They end up moving to LA, and the dome would have actually had a shopping mall around it. Very, very crazy. Either way, that is going to do it for this video. Make sure you follow me on X. Link to that's always in the description.